The story begins in a mysterious world located thousands of kilometers above the sky, where even reaching was like inviting death. Yet some soldiers risked their lives and managed to get there. But the very next moment, they came face to face with the most dangerous and gigantic monster of that world. Jack sensed its presence and immediately dipped his head into the water to hide. Just then, a massive foot appeared in front of him, causing the sheep nearby to run away in fear. The monster grabbed one of the sheep and swallowed it whole. Seeing this horrifying sight, Jack was terrified. Meanwhile, a soldier hiding behind a tree turned back to look at the monster, but the monster sniffed the air and recognized his scent. Out of fear, the soldier hid again behind the tree, but the monster began moving toward him with giant steps. The soldier, holding his breath, could not control himself anymore and suddenly started running. But it was already too late. He had come into the monster's sight. Without wasting time, the monster uprooted the entire tree and threw it aside. The soldier tried to escape, but his small legs could not match the monster's long strides. The monster quickly caught up and knocked him unconscious in one blow. Seeing a human for the first time, the monster bent down and observed them closely. Just as it was about to pick him up, the captain rushed toward it with a sword and stabbed it with full force into its heel. The monster turned back in pain, but the next moment it lightly kicked the captain away. Then it pulled out the sword stuck in its foot and picked up both soldiers to take them away as food. Jack, standing at a distance, watched all of this. At that moment, he realized what a huge mistake he had made by coming here. Actually, some time earlier, Jack had received several magical beans with the help of a priest. But when his girlfriend, who was a princess, came to meet him, one of the beans came in contact with water and started growing rapidly. Suddenly, the entire wooden house began to shake violently, and strange, terrifying sounds started coming from below. Both of them were frozen in fear and could not move. Then, suddenly, the ground split open and a giant vine burst through the house, rising toward the sky. Seeing this, the princess tried to run away, but a table fell on her. Jack rushed forward to save her, but the vines threw him out of the house. At that moment, a wooden door suddenly opened, showing the princess a way out. But as she tried to run outside, the vines suddenly shut the door. She tried to open it, but it would not budge. Seeing this, Jack grabbed an axe to cut the vines, but suddenly the entire house was uprooted along with its foundation and started rising toward the sky. At the very last moment, Jack jumped and grabbed the edge, but the vines were growing so fast that within seconds the house reached thousands of meters above. Jack used all his strength to cut the vine with the axe. As soon as the vine broke, the princess opened the door, but the very next moment, the wood beneath her feet broke, and despite holding on, she began to fall from a height of 10,000 meters. Jack slid down along the magical vines toward the ground, but along the way, the vine slowed his speed a little, and finally he fell unconscious on the ground. However, the princess was not so lucky, as the vines carried her to the other side of the sky. The next morning, Jack woke up in panic and saw the king standing in front of him searching for the princess. Terrified, Jack had no choice but to tell him everything. When Jack pointed toward the sky, everyone saw a giant vine piercing straight up into the sky. As soon as the king learned the truth, he immediately sent a troop of soldiers along with Jack to rescue the princess. Soon, all of them climbed up using the vine and reached beyond the clouds. Then, the captain moved forward and started sliding from one side to the other, as that was the only way to reach the princess. Jack, having no choice, removed his belt and prepared himself. But just as he was about to move forward, the curly-haired man standing nearby suddenly kicked him hard and pushed him ahead. Seeing the height, Jack panicked, and while sliding midway, his grip slipped and fell straight down. Luckily, the vines caught him midway. As soon as he regained consciousness, he started climbing up again without stopping. Upon reaching the top, the weather turned completely terrible. There were strong storms and lightning everywhere. Suddenly, a bolt of lightning struck a soldier directly, causing him to slip and collide with others, making several soldiers fall down. But at the last moment, one soldier held the rope tightly, somehow saving the rest. However, those who had fallen were now hanging in the air. If they weren't pulled up immediately, the entire team could be in danger. At that moment, Roderick told the man standing next to him to cut the rope. The man liked the idea and immediately pulled out a hidden knife with his foot. The hanging soldiers begged him not to do it, but without showing any mercy, he cut the rope, and the soldiers fell from a height of 10,000 feet. Somehow, the remaining soldiers reached the top, and by then, it was already morning. As soon as Jack turned back, he was completely shocked, because above the clouds, there was a massive world. Seeing this, everyone started moving toward it. Then the captain noticed fresh footprints on the ground, from which he concluded that the princess had not gone down, but was somewhere here. When they came out of the cave, the sight in front of them left the captain stunned, because the world was far more vishal than they had expected. Everyone began moving forward, inspecting the area. Soon, they noticed markings on tree branches left by the princess. At the same time, Jack found the same book on the ground that he had given her. Then they saw broken branches, which made them realize that some dangerous creature had taken the princess. After this, they split into 2 teams and went in different directions to search for her. On the way, Jack and his companions reached the river, where they saw a herd of fat, healthy sheep. Being hungry for many days, they decided to cook one. But as they attempted to catch one of the sheep, a trap nearby got activated by mistake. Jack immediately pulled out his knife and started cutting the net with full force. Meanwhile, the captain also tried to cut the rope. But then he noticed something strange. All the nearby crows suddenly flew away in panic, and all the sheep started running in a different direction. The captain felt suspicious, but continued cutting the rope, and somehow they both escaped the trap. But suddenly, a terrifying sound echoed through the forest, and at that moment, a gigantic giant appeared in front of them and grabbed both soldiers, taking them away. Jack quietly followed the giant to their hideout, and was amazed by what he saw. There were beautiful waterfalls and towering mountains everywhere, making it look no less than heaven. There, a 2-headed giant had kept the princess locked inside a cage. Then he took her to the other giants, where all of them gathered and stared at her. Soon, the giant who had captured the captain and the fat soldier returned, and threw them near the cage. Seeing this, the 2-headed giant suspected that there might be more humans around. So he grabbed the fat soldier lying on the ground, twisted his neck, and swallowed him alive. Then he spat out his armor. As the giant began threatening the captain that he would eat the princess, a voice suddenly came from nearby, drawing everyone's attention. It was none other than the traitor Roderick. Seeing the crown on his head, all the giants immediately knelt down. At that moment, his real plan was revealed.
He walked straight up to the 2-headed giant and ordered him to kneel. Seeing the crown, the giant had no choice but to obey. Roderick stepped on his face and slowly walked toward the throne, and from that moment, he became the new king of the giants' world. He declared war on humans and announced that he would conquer the entire world. Hearing this, the giant army became extremely excited. However, the 2-headed giant seemed to be thinking something else. Meanwhile, the giant picked up the captain to cook him and threw him onto sticky dough. The more he struggled, the more he got stuck. Then the giant threw a handful of flour over him. After that, the giant did something disgusting. He twisted the captain and placed him aside. Now only vegetables were left to be added. As the giant went to get vegetables, Jack quietly arrived there. The princess was very happy to see him, but he signaled her to stay quiet. Jack slowly moved toward her and tried to open the cage lock, but it was too difficult. The princess told him to first save the captain, who had been placed in line with the pigs. Jack quickly went to him and began cutting him free from the sticky dough. At that moment, the giant started returning with spices. Seeing this, Jack quickly handed the knife to the captain and hid himself. Fortunately, the giant suspected nothing. He picked up some sharp sticks and pierced them into a pig lying nearby. The pig, which had been screaming, went silent instantly. Now it was the captain's turn. The giant struck without mercy, but slightly missed. Otherwise, the captain's future generations would have ended right there. Seeing this, the captain fainted in fear. Then the giant picked them all up and placed them into a furnace burning nearby. Now the only one who could save them was Jack. At that moment, Jack had climbed onto an iron ring, and the giant had no idea. Just then, the giant picked up a sharp knife and moved toward the princess. Without delay, he put his hand inside, took her out, and placed her on the table, preparing to cut her. But at that moment, Jack quietly picked up a heavy knife lying nearby. The unaware giant was just about to strike the princess when Jack stabbed the knife straight into her spine. The giant screamed loudly in pain, but Jack held the knife firmly. In his uncontrollable state, the giant crashed into the wall and died. Seeing this, both the princess and the captain were shocked. After that, the 3 of them immediately reached the magical vine. But a giant was already guarding the place, sent there by Roderick. At that moment, an unusual idea came into Jack's mind. He took a beehive and, along with the captain, slowly approached the giant. Then the captain lifted the giant's helmet and Jack shoved the hive inside it. The giant was still sleeping carefree and had no idea what was about to happen to him. As soon as Jack placed the hive inside, the captain quickly shut the helmet and both of them ran from there and hid behind a nearby rock, waiting. After a short while, the giant woke up in agony from the bee stings and began shaking his body in pain. But the more he struggled, the more the bees attacked him. In panic, the giant tried to run away, but he slipped, hit the rocks, and rolled toward the edge of a cliff. It seemed like he was about to fall. Just then, he suddenly removed his helmet. Seeing this, the three of them were shocked for a moment, but then a bee flew straight toward him and stung him hard, causing him to lose control and fall straight down. Seeing this, all three of them rejoiced with happiness. They could not believe that they had defeated such a huge giant so easily. After this, the three decided to leave immediately, but suddenly the captain stopped. He said that he would have to stay there to take the crown from Roderick, so Jack handed him a knife and started descending with the princess. At the same time, the giant finally fell down below after crashing through the vines. Hearing the loud noise, the king came out of his tent and was terrified to see such a dangerous giant there. Soon, the villagers also gathered there. Then, unwillingly, the king made a major decision for the safety of his people and to stop the giants from coming there. He immediately ordered the general to cut down the vine. The soldiers hammered huge iron spikes into the massive vine, attached strong hooks to them, and began pulling it with the help of bulls and horses. Slowly, the giant vine started shaking from its roots, but this put the nearby soldiers in danger. Suddenly, the thick central vine began to break. The soldiers standing above started falling, causing chaos everywhere. Meanwhile, Jack and the princess were descending using the vine, but when they looked down, they were terrified because the vine had become uncontrollable and could fall at any moment. At that moment, Jack seized the opportunity, held the princess tightly, and grabbed the hanging branch. Both of them swung in the air and quickly descended downward. Finally, when they fell, a pile of grass reduced their speed and they safely reached the ground. At that very moment, Roderick gathered all the giants and prepared to attack the humans. Just then, the two-headed giant sensed a human presence, causing the captain to hide. Roderick moved forward and took out the magical beans that could grow vines, but suddenly the captain attacked him, causing the magical beans to fall onto the rocks, while Roderick fell into a pit below. Terrified, Roderick began calling the giants for help, while the captain stood ready to fight him. The two-headed giant ordered the others to pull him out. As the giant started breaking the rocks, a fight began between the captain and Roderick below. Using his long sword, Roderick knocked the captain down and sent his weapon flying away. Then he seized the opportunity and launched continuous attacks. However, the captain kept blocking his strikes, and a battle of strength began between them. Soon, the captain started weakening and Roderick pushed him into the water. Just then, the captain noticed a knife floating toward him. At the right moment, he grabbed it with his teeth and immediately struck Roderick in the face. Enraged by the sudden attack, Roderick pushed him back with his weapon. The captain kept retreating until he reached the edge. Then Roderick kicked him hard, making him fall, but the captain managed to grab onto the rocks. Roderick tried to stab his hands with the sword so that he would fall, but he had underestimated the captain's strength. As he attacked again, the captain grabbed his weapon and stabbed it into Roderick's leg. Roderick screamed in pain, and taking advantage of the moment, the captain stabbed the sword into his stomach. Due to the sudden attack, Roderick died on the spot. With his death, the magical power of the crown ended as well. The captain somehow climbed up and moved forward to retrieve the crown, but suddenly the cave above collapsed and the two-headed giant picked up the crown before him. He wore it on his finger and declared himself the new king of the giants' world. As soon as he wore the crown, his powers returned, and the other giants knelt before him. Just then, the captain noticed that the only vine leading back to the human world could break and fall at any moment. Without wasting time, he jumped directly onto the vine. The vine began moving rapidly towards the castle. At the right moment, the captain jumped off and landed into the water.
When the two-headed giant realized that the path to the human world had been destroyed, he roared in anger. Suddenly, the smaller head pointed toward a bag lying on the ground, which contained magical beans. The giant picked it up and opened it. There were 4 magical beans inside. Seeing this, he became overjoyed. He immediately blew them into the water. As soon as the beans touched the water, they began to grow instantly, and within moments, 4 giant vines burst out of the ground. After this, the two-headed giant gave a loud command, and all the giants climbed the vines and started heading toward the human world. At the last moment, the two-headed giant also jumped down and began sliding toward the ground through the vines. At that time, Jack was giving water to a horse when he suddenly looked up at the sky and saw all the giants descending rapidly. Without wasting a moment, he mounted the horse and rode off to warn the king. Meanwhile, the king's army was calmly moving toward the castle. As soon as Jack saw them, he began shouting loudly that the giants were coming, but the king still did not understand. Suddenly, several giants emerged from the forest behind, destroying everything in their path. No one was able to stop them. Soon, the giant army approached and grabbed a soldier, swallowing him alive. Even the horse riders cannot escape their speed. At that moment, humans were completely helpless. Then, a round-faced giant broke the blade of a nearby windmill and threw it toward the princess. As soon as it hit the ground, everything shattered, and the king's crown fell off. Meanwhile, the soldiers stationed at the castle saw the king's army approaching and immediately sent word inside to prepare for battle. The captain quickly ordered the soldiers to pour oil into the moat to stop the enemies. As soon as the king's army reached near the castle, he ordered to fire arrows, and within moments, hundreds of flaming arrows were launched toward the enemies. As the arrows hit the oil, flames spread everywhere, and in the meantime, the king's army safely entered the castle. Seeing the princess safe, the captain immediately ordered the gates to be closed. But at that moment, Jack was still outside, and the giants were chasing him. As the castle gates were about to close, Jack panicked, but at the last moment, he jumped in with his horse and made it inside. However, right behind him, the two-headed giant climbed onto the gate, but the captain attacked him and he fell straight into the burning flames. Soon, the fire completely surrounded him. Surprisingly, none of the other giants came to save him and simply stood watching him burn. Meanwhile, before people could even process what was happening, a huge iron bell suddenly fell from the sky toward the castle, smashing the wall and crashing down. Before anyone could understand anything, the sound of war horns echoed. Then 2 massive iron hooks were thrown toward the castle gates and the giants began pulling them forcefully. A tug of war began between humans and giants. This was actually the plan of the round-faced giant, who called more giants and ordered them to break the castle gate. Inside, chaos spread everywhere. The princess took Jack and ran deeper into the castle. Meanwhile, the old king ordered all soldiers to use crossbows to stop the giants. Soon, more giants arrived and began pulling with full force. On the captain's command, the soldiers fired multiple crossbows that struck the wooden gates. With precise aim, the soldiers quickly pulled the crossbow carts back. The castle army split into groups, and the king himself came forward to help. He was asking the captain about the giant's weakness when suddenly a burning tree fell from the sky, scattering the soldiers. Soon, multiple burning trees started falling over them, weakening their grip. It seemed the gate would soon break. At that moment, the princess brought Jack inside the castle, but suddenly a loud roar and cracks spreading across the ground caught their attention. Terrified, they stepped back as stones began rising upward. Suddenly, 2 massive hands emerged from below. It was the same two-headed giant who had survived the fire because he had fallen into water and had secretly entered the castle through the sewer. Suddenly, he sensed the royal scent of the princess. Jack nervously lifted the blanket and realized the giant had not noticed them yet. But then, in anger, the giant smashed a mirror nearby. The 2 hiding under the blanket trembled in fear, but then the giant looked from above and spotted them. Jack quickly grabbed the princess and ran with all his strength, but the giant kept chasing them. With no way out, they ran toward the upper floor. Suddenly, a hand came out from the side and grabbed the princess. Jack picked up an axe nearby and attacked immediately, but the giant caught him with his other hand. The smaller head began mocking Jack. In anger, Jack struck and broke the giant's helmet. Furious, the giant opened his huge mouth. At that moment, Jack took out a magical bean hidden in his locket and threw it straight into the giant's mouth. The bean went into his stomach, and the two-headed giant suddenly felt something strange and threw them to the ground. Then, suddenly, a vine burst from his body, and both of them stepped back in fear.
Soon, multiple vines tore through his body at full speed, destroying the entire hall. Suddenly, the hand wearing the king's crown fell near Jack. Meanwhile, outside, the soldiers were still trying to stop the giants, but at a signal from the round-faced giants, all the giants slowly advanced, defeating the soldiers one by one. The castle gates slowly opened. The captain immediately ordered the soldiers to close the iron gate. At that very moment, the round-faced giant emerged from the fog with his companions. But the iron gate could not hold him for long, and he broke it in a single strike. Then the giant entered the castle with his companions. Seeing the tasty soldiers standing there, they became delighted. Just as the giants were about to attack, a voice came from behind, drawing their attention. The giant looked carefully in the crowd and suddenly dropped his weapon. Seeing this, all the other giants also dropped their weapons and knelt before the humans. The captain was stunned to see the sight.